Hi, welcome to the Dump Anxiety channel. So, another very often asked question is talk about stages of recovery, how recovery looks like. How do I know I'm on the right path? And when people ask that, what they want to hear and what they expect would be me describing like, okay, so first, you have a lot of symptoms, right? You don't know what's happening, and then as you know what's happening and as you start responding properly, then about 2 months later some of the symptoms are going to go away, and about another 2 months later this is going to happen and this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And while there is like a general outline of how it usually looks, that's not the right way of looking at it, to be honest, because we are all individual. Anxiety recovery kind of happens in layers, and some people will be struggling more with physical symptoms, some people will be struggling more with their thoughts, some people will have harder time to deal with emotions. And the fact is that it's all based on our experiences, or what we are actually afraid of, what are our triggers, specific ones, individual ones. So it will never be precise, and it would get people confused because there is no like general rule of thumb, and people would be confused because they would be looking for progress or signs of they are doing it right, they're recovering correctly or on plan. They would be looking in the wrong place because it would just get them confused, right? Some symptoms stay longer, some symptoms go away faster, some symptoms tend to disappear and then return. Symptoms can change. Then there's the whole aspect of human mind, which is more important than people think, actually way more important than the physical symptom part of anxiety and anxiety recovery. And when people look at, oh, how do I feel? That's the confusing part. So many times on Instagram, I get questions like, I've been recovering for 6 months and now I have this symptom left and that symptom left and this still triggers me. What does it mean? How far along am I? And that doesn't tell me anything. How are you responding when they appear? How are you responding when you get triggered? Right? What do you do if something is triggering? Are you avoiding it? Are you doing it? How do you behave when you are doing it? When you are doing that triggering thing? Where your focus goes? Are you resisting? Those are the questions that are important. So if someone asks about stages of recovery, I no longer like to look at it as like, you can expect this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, because that is secondary. That is actually, the relief or the visible effect of what you're doing. It follows. It always delayed, and it can vary to a certain degree. So instead of confusing people, I would prefer to give them the right guidelines and what to look at. So stages of recovery, how I see they should really be looked at, like what people should really look for, is the first stage of recovery, obviously starting where your nervous system is dysregulated. You probably have a lot of physical symptoms that are very uncomfortable, might even be debilitating. Like with me, it was digestive issues that they were actually causing medical problems, right? So some of them might really be very, very debilitating. Some of them are just very scary or very uncomfortable. None of them are welcomed, obviously. So you're starting there, right? High anxiety, a lot of physical symptoms. Your mind is probably like a beehive, always buzzing, never calm. Your emotions, I would imagine that if you were anything like me, you're either scared to death or you are constantly just sad and empty and depressed and hopeless mainly. And let's say that's where we start. Okay, so that's like point zero. What is the first stage of recovery? Well, the first stage of recovery would be understanding, gathering the information. And don't get me wrong, having information is good, but sometimes I see people on the internet gathering information for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and never actually applying them. So that's not the kind of gathering information I mean. I mean just basic understanding, foundational understanding. Fact is that because people with anxiety are overthinkers, all of them, less is more. Less is more. You will never feel like you know everything, and you just have to start applying even though you don't feel like you know everything, because you probably already know more than you need to know. So first stage, understanding. Second stage, practicing the right steps. When you understand anxiety and when you understand the solution, you also know that you need to start changing your patterns. You need to start changing your reactions to anxiety and the symptoms. You need to start changing your thinking patterns, and you need to start changing your behaviors. Otherwise, you're not going to recover. So second stage is practice. Third stage, I think, is moving from practice to consistency. Because when you practice something, when you're making those changes in your habits, basically, it's habits, it's patterns, well, you're not going to be good at it at the beginning, right? So the second stage is the practice, and you're going to be messing up, and it's not going to feel good, and it's going to feel unnatural, and it's not going to be at all what your brain wants to do, right? So the third stage would be actually getting good at it, and that's the consistency part where, okay, now I know what to do. I've practiced it enough. I think I'm getting better at it, and now I need to be consistent. Because so many people, they say, oh, I've been recovering for a year, but not much changed. And it's like, are you really recovering for a year, or are you dabbling for a year? Because so many people, they try to respond properly, they try to change their patterns, but they do it for like a day or two, and then they spend the next 10 days or 2 weeks or a month back in resistance, looking for answers, looking for quick fixes, Googling, talking to AI. That's worse than Google, because now it actually answers and it can talk to you all day. So yeah, not good. So some people, they say, oh, I've been practicing acceptance or non-resistance, for a year. But in fact, no, maybe they practiced like 2 weeks out of the year. Like they tried for a day or two, they realized it's very uncomfortable, and then they slip back for 2 weeks or 2 months back to Googling, looking for fixes, looking for, okay, what am I doing wrong, how to do it better. They never gave it a chance to even work. They never even gave it a shot. So consistency, that will be the third stage. Stage number 4, I would say after you get consistent, that's when you actually see lasting results, where you will actually see your nervous system calming down, symptoms kind of falling off. So I think that fourth stage should really be focused on the mind patterns, because that's when the body gets quieter, nervous system gets calmer. So the fourth stage should be focused on thinking patterns, realizing your resistance, your cognitive distortions, and how you react to them and all those things. And yeah, and like the fifth stage, I think that's kind of like the phase where you should start carry over the tools you've learned in order to react to anxiety differently, basically changing your relationship and response towards anxiety symptoms and all of that. Now you're gonna need to take it over and start using it in your day-to-day life. Because you didn't get sensitized like out of the blue. Like the anxiety didn't just grew up overnight, right? It was something that was brewing in the background. And I already mentioned one thing, for example, overthinking, right? All anxiety sufferers are overthinkers. They are. I was too. Unable to let anything go. And that was before anxiety, right? Someone told me something, I had an argument with someone, that person forgot about it an hour later, maybe even sooner. Oh, I was on it for a week. Thinking about it, replaying the conversation, thinking about what should I have said and what they should have said and how could have they said that. And I would complain about it to everyone. I would tell everyone the story. And I would fight with that person in my head. Long time after that fight in their mind was already forgotten. So, for example, that's one of the things. So, for me, the fifth stage looked like noticing mainly in life stressors and life triggers. Like, we all have certain pain points, right? We all have some things in life, which, yeah, that can come from our childhood and stuff like that. I get it. But just because something happened in the past, your brain doesn't care what happened in the past. Your brain cares how you're behaving now, where that old pain gets triggered. That's what your brain cares about. So For me, the fifth stage was kind of like being more aware of my reactions, especially in those moments of stress where I felt little stretched, little poked at by something or someone or an event or an uncertainty, a worry, a doubt, whatever it was. And kind of seeing, oh, okay, yeah, here is where I'm doing something up here that is not really helpful. And it's actually causing additional stress that doesn't need to be there. Oh, better fix that, better correct that. So that was the fifth stage for me. And that's how I would describe the stages. Don't judge based on how you feel, because it's going to confuse you. The effect is always delayed, point number one. Point number two, you're not a machine. As your nervous system is readjusting, it's regulating, you're not a machine. You're not a computer. It's going to overshoot. It's going to undershoot. There are changes happening in the background in terms of hormones and everything. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit up and down. It's going to be a bumpy ride. It's not going to be smooth sailing. So if you judge based on how you feel day to day, what symptoms still linger, what is gone, and what triggers you and what doesn't, those are the wrong areas to focus on. You should not do that, because it's not going to get you anywhere and it's going to keep you stuck.